I want winners. I want people that want to win.
Hey, Rod, we're up a little quickly today, and the reason is because it is Christmas Eve, and people got stuff to do tonight. They don't want to sit here for hours and hours waiting for us to get a podcast going. But happy holidays to you. How's everything going tonight?
Excellent. I'm in Vegas, so yeah,
there you go.
It's gonna be a great night.
You're in Vegas a week early because that's where the Niners will be next weekend.
Yeah, I'm gonna be here then too. So yeah, it'll be.
There we go.
Yeah,
that's what I'm talking about. Hey, so we have a game today, which is and Shelvin has popped in already. Thanks for popping in, Shelvin. 8 in a row. We had a game that was like at the end of the first half, I was like, it's a pretty boring game. Washington is they're not winning the game, but the fact that they're playing the 49ers even kind of makes it seem like they're winning the game. And they play similarly, right? Like they are the 49ers without the same weapons. And actually like their running back, Brian Robinson. I thought he did a pretty good job, even though the Niners were just all over him. But in the second half, holy cow, they just let it go. They open it up. We'll talk about some of the adjustments here. Because we're going to do this show a little bit more quickly than we used to. We're going to hit the points a little bit quicker. Like I said, we want to get everybody back out with their families and, after this game. So this will be a quicker show. But I had point number one here for us to talk about. This is, I think it looks a little negative. It's not meant to be negative, but if there's one thing that you want to call out, secondary didn't have their best game of the season. There was in the first half, especially some third and long plays that Washington was able to connect with. There was a deep shot late when they did score the touchdown there. And I don't know. I don't know if you can even really learn anything from that or if teams will look at that. But the Niners were very aggressive. And when the Washington quarterbacks had time, it looked like they were able to find some spots. So I don't know. Did you make anything of that, of the big plays that they were giving up in the air?
Well, with Mooney being out, I think that was big because they went immediately at Womack as soon as that change was made. And then there were a couple of blown coverages where they just didn't match up right. So yeah, that was a bit concerning. But yeah, they, like you say, the second half was that, George and everything got clicking, and it was a sight to behold.
30 to 13 in the second half there. They outscored the Redskins. So the rest of the defense, though, great job. The run game, like I said, I really liked Robinson. I thought he was pretty shifty. I liked the way he moved. At 22 carries for 58 yards, 2.6 yards per carry, long of 10. And collectively, they ran the ball 33 times, the Redskins did, for 79 yards. So 2.4 yards per carry. The 49ers are already the best in the league at yards per carry, so they improved on that. And yet, when you look at it, I guess the reason to not continue throwing is because you become a little predictable, and the 49ers pass rush starts to pick up, and they, Bosa is hitting you when you don't see it coming and causing fumbles. So you still have to kind of play that style, and probably not just open it up down the field. I know they had Wentz late in the game, and for whatever reason, Carson Wentz plays well against us. I don't know what it is, but I saw this dude come in, and I was like, no, put Heineke back in for whatever reason. But
he's a talented dude. But
yeah, how come he can't? I know he got hurt, but he just looks like a way better player than Heineke.
I mean, that last touchdown pass, that was that was a strike.
Yeah.
Yes, I don't know why I can totally see why teams, trade 3
Give him a
draft picks
chance. Yeah.
for him, because I mean, he's got all the tools, but I don't understand why he just can't seem to put it together.
Yeah. Yeah. For whatever reason, like you feel, like you said, teams, I'm sure, are like, okay, we can do something with him. And then you bring him over and it's, maybe they don't have the quite the thing. But I look at it the same way. I'm like, man, Wentz would be really good behind this 49ers team.
I know, right? It's crazy.
Okay. All right. So I just wanted to shout out the defense. Bosa, again, 2 sacks. They had the interception, the Jimmy Ward interception. There was a little bit of a bend, don't break there with the secondary, but by the second half, they were well ahead. So let's get to the second point here. Our guy Purdy, rough first half, and I didn't want to see it, obviously, but I was happy to see that they sort of learned what they were doing incorrectly in the first half. And that'll be our third point is mostly the second half adjustments. But, like we said, the more tape that is out there on Purdy, the more film that these coaches, because I can imagine every defensive coordinator the Niners play from here on out, the message to the team is like, we got to get this little shit. Like, we got to show that he's not as good as he's been so far. Like, that's kind of the mentality. But 3 games in a row, Purdy starting 3 wins. No quarterback in 49ers history has ever started his first 3 games and got 3 W's. And the history with our quarterbacks. So great second half by Purdy. Little bit of a sidearm, getting balls batted down early, kind of reminded you a little bit of, maybe Jeff Garcia, a little bit of Tim Rattay. Even for being such a tall guy, for whatever reason, Alex Smith got balls batted down a lot. But then they strike in the second half. And, we talked about this when Debo got hurt, like who's going to step up? And it's really been George, right? George has been the guy to step up. That's 2 weeks in a row. So the offense clicked. They ran the ball 153 yards, though a little bit less than half of that. Actually, no, half of that was big play Ray McLeod's run there. That kind of was really the only offense for the 49ers there in the first half. But the Washington is a formidable football team, and Absolutely. They put it on them in that second half.
Yeah, that defense is legit. That defensive line is really good, and it showed in the first half. I mean, they were a formidable opponent, and like you say, in the second half, though, we made the adjustments, and our the offensive line played better. I still had that shovel pass to George Kittle. If Banks just does anything with the block, George just walks in. And then we had the 2 penalties on him and Mac. So they're still kind of up and down. I believe, though, offensively, they are just our litmus test. If they play well, we're hard. If we can just protect Brock, and we've done a pretty good job of that. And then if we're able to move people off the, and get some stuff going in the run game, we're hard to stop when they're both going.
So. Yeah, absolutely. And so I wanted to bring this up because our guy Mike Gilbert says he doesn't care if Jimmy comes back. It's Purdy all the way. And I had a similar question for you. And this isn't about whether or not Jimmy comes back. If Jimmy comes back and he's 100% healthy, Kyle definitely has a decision to make. But my question to you is, if Jimmy was 100% healthy today and we get the Brock that we've seen for these several games, who do you think is the better fit for the 49ers offense?
I'll say this. I would feel much better about having Jimmy as quarterback 2 than Josh Johnson. So but I think Jimmy, it would definitely be the backup. And I just think we got to continue to rock and roll, man. You got to
There you
continue
go.
to
I
rock
like
and
it.
roll.
I
He
like
is.
it.
I really, when I talk about the offensive line and pass protection, it just is. It to me, I don't know if it's just me, but it just seems like his mobility
Yes.
takes a whole lot of pressure off of them to be perfect all the time, because you can just kind of move him out, and he's really slick in the pocket. I mean, he's you know there he's able to he's kind of shifty, and can kind of slide up, and he can slide out, and all of that helps the offensive line, which a lot of people say sacks are a quarterback stat anyway. So if your quarterback is able to move and you know give himself a little more time to make plays, the offensive line loves that. So I would definitely stay with Brock if it were me.
I think if we're talking about the playoffs and both guys are 100%, I would probably lean Garoppolo slightly, but the worry is that if he does come back, he just doesn't have the reps, and then you don't want an ice cold quarterback coming in. He's probably not that guy to be able to just walk in without having played and, throw dimes. He needs time to get warmed up. He needs time to adjust. And so I would, you probably do lean Brock into the playoffs like that. My worry with Brock, and I think everybody's worry with Brock, is just, the playoffs is just a little bit different. And Jimmy has not, he has not been the king of the mountain, but he has the experience of getting to an NFC title game. He has the experience of winning an NFC title game. And so that's the thing that Brock hasn't had. So that's sort of the unknown. But yeah, I mean, he's doing everything that you could have possibly wanted and more in these games so far. And kudos to him, man.
Well, I agree in that. If you're gonna go Jimmy, it would be preferable if he's able to get a start or two heading into the playoffs.
Yes.
I don't think it's fair to him or any quarterback for them to be out for 4 weeks and then their first game back be a playoff game. I just don't think that's I don't and that has nothing to do with just Jimmy. I mean, obviously if you're the Kansas City Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes was out, he starts. But just your average quarterback, I think it's a lot to ask to come off the bench after a month and slide right into playoff football. I think that's a single elimination situation. And we even saw, when Jimmy came in for Trey, he played good in the relief role, but he struggled the next two games after that, which is fair because he didn't have a training camp.
And he was hurt.
So
He was hurt
yes.
all off season. Yeah.
So, while I give him a hard time sometimes, it shouldn't have been unexpected that he would have, it would take him a little bit of time to get it. And then plus I guess the main difference though is that, I was talking to somebody about Trey and even Jimmy. Then what you have to also remember is that the offensive line and the offense just simply had not found a rhythm yet in those first 3 or 4 weeks. So that is something that Brock had an advantage over those two early in the season, is that, he kind of came into a situation where we were just starting to get rolling. We were integrating CMC, and, the offensive line was playing a lot more consistent, way more consistent than they were early in the season.
Yeah.
So it was just kind of a different situation. And maybe that would be, different for Jimmy as well. That if we're rolling and it's just about plugging him in, maybe it's a little, maybe that it's a little easier on him. But I still kind of believe in the hot hand. So just, if it's not broke, why fix it now again? But if Brock is hurt, if you feel that he is, compromised in any way, and you feel that Jimmy is completely healthy, then I mean that's a conversation to have. But I mean, for him to be banged up, Brock has played pretty well, all things considered, with cracked ribs and the oblique and all of
Yeah.
that. I mean, he's done a good job. He's done a good job, and I think he's kind of earned the right to continue to play. Like, I think today was big that it wasn't, he didn't start off great.
Yeah.
But he fought through it and had a really good second half. That's a good, 'cause all of this, it's frustrating to me to hear people talk about him like he's like this finished product, and like he's not gonna. I mean, he's a young player, so at some point he's gonna struggle. And today he struggled in the first half,
Yeah,
and it was good to see him bounce back. So that's a learning experience for him. That's growth, and that he is a work in progress. That's what I caution people to remember, is that he's not going to be 134 quarterback rating his whole career, and so he's on a heater, and that's great, but we need to be cognizant that he's going to struggle sometimes, and we need to be okay with that.
That's why I kind of said, like, I almost embraced it, because I wanted to see how he would come out of that, and he came out of it fantastically,
really well. So I mean, that was a win for us, I think. As we continue to move forward,
he's got a little bit of baseball player in him too, because you see him. He gets out of stuff, and if he's got to drop an arm angle, he can drop an arm angle. He's creative, and one of the things that Jimmy is not is, if the play breaks down, it's got to throw it away, because there's just no other thing that we can do. So Brock does give you that, and I find it interesting that Shanahan trusts him with these plays, which leave him, if they bust, he's going to get crushed. They opened up the game with a dart to Ayuk, and had that play not worked out correctly, he was getting drilled and sacked immediately, because they left that. I think it was whatever defensive end was. They just left him, right there. So
he had to account for him.
He is trusting him with some of these plays where, if he's even a half of a second off of the play, like he could get drilled. And so Shanahan does trust him to make these decisions, really quick thinking stuff. And like I said, just the ability to be able to adjust your arm angle, not the stuff that Pat Mahomes can do at a super duper high level. Just the ability to have that is just another thing for the offense. So I thought that was good too.
One of his best plays, I thought, was that throwaway that he had in the second half, where he kind of pirouettes and gets himself in position to to be able to get it out of, to not only throw it away, but to keep from taking a shot. That was, he's just, I think that is his greatest strength, is that he has played a lot of football.
Yeah.
And he knows how to, get in and out of situations, feels comfortable getting in and out of situations. And like you say, Kyle really seems to trust him. So I think that's, I feel real comfortable with him.
There was one moment, and that play, Trent Green, for all the fumbling that he does with his English language, Trent Green, did mention that, as good as that play was, when you have the kind of injuries that he does, that is kind of hard on the body. There was another moment where he scrambled, and he doesn't seem to be the slider yet. He looks to get that extra yard, where I was like, you kind of dove head first there. I don't imagine that's great on those muscles there. So there is that thing too, because he's so young and he's so eager, that I just don't want him to get hurt, because I want him to be able to play at as high a level as possible without these little injuries here. So, all right, third thing here, Shanahan and the coaches make big time second half adjustments. So I actually have some numbers here because I was kind of interested in how the 49ers look at the first half versus second half. They are generally a first half team when it comes to scoring the football. They average 14 points in the first half, and then they average 10 points in the second half. Some of this is that you're just kind of running the ball down the throat of the other team, and you're sort of lengthening the game for you. And then defensively, they give up 7 points in the first half and then about 8 points in the second half. Now, this is the sort of the whole season so far. And so when they were tied at 7-7, it wasn't an opportunity where they're up by 10 points and that they just kind of run the ball down the throat. They actually had to go out and win it. And the adjustments that they made, that Kyle decided, like, okay, here's what we see. The middle of the field is kind of open here. We can take advantage of these shots. Kittle, 6 catches, 120 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Ayuk made a really nice play near the sideline. He's got 5 for 81. And so those are really it. Even McCaffrey wasn't really involved that much in the game, but all of that stuff that opened up for them in the second half, you're just like, okay, like maybe someone will ask him in the press conference, but like, what did you see that made you say, instead of doing what we usually do, which is continue to stay run heavy, they just opened it up and they were just letting Purdy whip it. So I thought that was great. And obviously you trust your defense in this kind of game because Washington isn't necessarily good at doing that. They aren't good at, if you can get a lead here, you could put points on the board. They ran 33 times today, and a lot of the running was, when they were behind. That's still their mentality. They did not adjust the way that the 49ers adjusted.
Kind of like you said, that is what they want to do. They want to lengthen the game. Like that one drive that they had that we ended up, stopping them. It was like 17 plays in 10 minutes. I mean, that is what Washington wanted to do. Obviously there you got to come up with points. But I mean, that was, obviously there was a concerted effort there to just let Brock to open it up and let him cook. And it worked. it was pretty awesome, actually.
Absolutely. And Shelvin has a good point here about Coach of the Year. Now, a lot of that stuff is, sometimes it's about if you're not supposed to be good and then you're good, and then they give that guy the Coach of the Year.
It's so narrative driven.
Yeah, but I do think that this is Kyle's best year. And why shouldn't it be? He was a first-time head coach, though he's had, maybe the best mentor that you could possibly have when your dad is such a fantastic offensive mind like his dad is. But, when they bring him in post Harbaugh, post Chip Kelly, post Tom Sula, it's really like, okay, we've done about the poorest job we can possibly do, and now we need you and John Lynch to kind of get us back to where we need. And he's had a little bit of an up and down trajectory. 2019 was fantastic, obviously, but then the injuries in 2020 is bad. Last year they kind of start off the same way as this year. It's really slow, and then they pick it up. Same thing this year. I think this is his best job. Now, some of it being his best job is that you trade for Christian McCaffrey in the middle of the season. And you bring back Debo and you put all these pieces together, but Kyle is the biggest piece of that too. Like, it's Kyle's team. John Lynch helps him do the things that he wants to do. So it's like this kind of hybrid thing for Kyle. It's like, yeah, he's doing a great job coaching, but they've also been able to do some great things while losing 2 quarterbacks at the same time. Like, it's just been tremendous. All those pieces that they've sort of put together have actually just really blossomed at the right time.
Yeah, 3 quarterbacks in. The thing that I don't think Kyle gets enough credit for is, it's been stated since the beginning, and I don't know if people just don't remember or don't think about it, is that our defensive philosophy is basically Kyle devising a scheme that he wouldn't want to coach against. And then Salah and now Ryan's being put in charge of implementing that system. So not only is he responsible for this offense that I love the the physical nature of our offense, and people are talking about that the record of teams the week after they play us. I think that the physicality of our both offensive and defensive teams have a lot to do with that. We beat you up, and I love that. For somebody who grew up watching a West Coast offense,
Yeah.
Harbaugh really changed my mind on being a very physical offense, and that's something that I really love. And I think it's great that Kyle has kind of continued that tradition, and really has kind of, like I say, when I grew up watching this game, we were real West Coast. The short passing game was the extension of the run game. We had smaller linemen because Bill wanted to get them out and run them and pull and trap and do all those type of things, where we got a bunch of hogs out there, and we want to just lean on you. And I love that. And I would love to see, I don't know, I really honestly, I haven't really looked around the league. I would guess Nick Sirianni is probably would be a candidate. I don't know who in the well, I guess Andy Reid, I guess. But yeah, I would think that Kyle should definitely be considered. If not, I'd love to see him win it, but I would just love to see him, be considered at this point, because we give him so much shit as a fan base. Excuse my language, but we really, it seems like to me the only people who don't appreciate how good a coach he is our fan base. It's he's a really good coach, and it that was the thing that I don't think you never know about a head coach, is how he's going to be as a head coach. I figured he's a good offensive coordinator, so we knew that, but how he was going to be, as the figurehead and managing the team is something, and it was kind of up and down. He has had problems as a game manager, I think, at times early on, and which is, to me, is understandable, because I believe that the offensive coordinator and the head coach, those are two separate jobs. It's hard for you to be the play caller and be in charge of making sure that all these other things are happening. So I don't know how the division of labor works for the 49ers, if somebody like Anthony Lynn is helping him manage the game or whatnot. But whatever they've got going right now, it's working.
Year 6. This is year 6 for him. So I do think it has been his best year for sure. Okay, so like I said, we're gonna try and get through this a little bit more quickly than usual. Kyle said in the post press conference, no injuries, so that's a great thing. No post game injuries. Both Jordan Mason and Mooney Ward left the game but returned to action. And then I guess let's do our player of the game. I have 3, but I have a clear number 1 again, and I'll just go from 3 to 1. So my number 3 is Brock. I thought he really made some big throws in the second half to really put this game out of reach. Now, the 3 field goals late would have been nice to turn one of those into touchdowns. Then they did get the touchdown after that to kind of to end the game. But there's things that he can build on, obviously, and I'm sure that Shanahan's going to focus on some of these things and some of the mistakes that they made. Jennings did bobble his throw to cause a pick. So those things were, I think those are coachable moments for him. So number 2 is Bosa. I mean, we can make Bosa 1 or 2 every week. He had another 2 sacks. He got the sack on the 2-point conversion, which doesn't count for his overall number. But just pops the ball out, and just what a tremendous presence he is. And I don't know how Heineke does like, if I was a quarterback and I knew you obviously know where he is on every play. I guess you can't be watching for him. You have to trust your protection. But man, when Bosa gets a shot at a quarterback and they don't see it coming, I'm just like, how do you allow that to happen? He's the guy that, you should have 2 guys on him at every time. And then for me, again, 2 weeks in a row for me. 2 weeks in a row, we got George, and I thought George was tremendous. George was the George of a couple years ago. He was catching and he was hunting guys to run over, but he was also being able to run away from guys, which is tremendous. And so he's playing the best ball of his year right now, and so they are peaking at the right time. What about you?
Same thing. I only had 2, but Brock is a good call. It was Nick and George. And I had it just the way you had it. Nick he is such a game wrecker. So he had like 2 tackles for losses and then a couple of quarterback hits in addition to the sacks. And I mean, he's something else. I mean, I see Shelvin says Bosa Kittle. I mean, I said at the beginning of the year, you can make Nick player of the game every week, in my opinion. So I wouldn't, you wouldn't get much pushback from me if you wanted to flip him. But Kittle was really, I mean, he was the engine that made the offense go today. And it's beautiful to see, man. When the thought of, you got Christian is what he is and what he brings to the offense. And now you got George going, and the thought of at some point we're going to get Debo back. I mean, if we can, it's been frustrating for me, like earlier in the season that, it just didn't seem like we were getting Kittle, involved in the pass offense as much as we had in the past, and I understood that he was doing other things, blocking and whatnot, but and I understand that is an important role, but I mean, he is such a dynamic playmaker. You got to figure out a way to get him some targets, because we've seen the last 2 weeks when you do it. I mean, he's a monster. I mean, he's a coverage nightmare, and once he gets it in his hands, I think some of us forgot that. I mean, Debo is what he is as a yak monster, but Kittle, I mean, he is equally as effective, with the matchups that he gets. He's on linebackers and safeties, and they just can't. He can big boy him, and he can run away from them. I mean,
he'll drag him.
He's a joy to watch, man. So yeah, I have no problem with him being the player of the game.
And not to go unnoticed, Fred Warner, 13 tackles, 8 solo today. Okay, so they come back next week on New Year's Day in Las Vegas against the Raiders. Who do the Raiders play tomorrow? The Raiders play the Steelers in Pittsburgh.
Oh, tonight.
That's tonight. You're right. That's tonight. And so they'll both have the same amount of days off, and 49ers are going to go into Vegas. Now, they were trying to make it sound like Debo has a shot to play next week, which surprised me. Great news that if he's feeling that well, but that would be a nice little shot in the arm for that offense if he is ready. 2 games left against Raiders and against Cardinals before the playoffs start. Did the Eagles actually lose?
Before we came on, they were behind. I don't know if they actually. I didn't see whether or not they actually.
They did. They lost to the Cowboys. So the Cowboys and us have the same record though, because we won our division, we are ahead of them. Still 3 though, because Minnesota keeps winning these games by the skin of their teeth here. And then now Eagles are now 13-2. They need their
So
offense.
they'd have to lose out.
They'd have to lose out for us to even get to number 1. So let's get to number 2. I'm fine with getting to number 2.
Absolutely.
All right. So you're going to be in Vegas. So we may have to do this show a little later next week because I have a family party to go to. So I'll be watching the game at the family party, but I probably won't be able to get back to my setup until the evening. So we'll figure it out if you can, what works best for you that night as well. And we can,
I am, as always, I am completely available. Wherever you want me to be, I'll be there.
All right.
Just tell me I'll be there.
All right, sweet. And Robert Ramos, thanks. Thanks for the shout out. I was told that I was told by someone at Facebook, because they will not reply to any of my emails. They're just leaving me hanging. But my buddy who works there says he's getting conflicting information and he thinks it could be like a marketplace thing. And then I was like, I've never used Facebook Marketplace in my life, so who knows? I can't fret, because it'll be so frustrating if I was bothered or too bothered, because it's kind of unfair and all that. But I'm just hoping that in the new year, someone's going to look at this thing and go, okay, we screwed up. I don't know why we took him off of Facebook, considering I have so many groups on Facebook that creates engagement for Facebook. So gives them so many ads to show all of us.
Exactly.
All right. Shelvin, Merry Christmas to you too. Rod, thanks for doing this. And thanks to the audience. I know we're doing this a little bit more quickly because I got to get out of here, and hopefully everyone's got stuff to do tonight. Happy holidays. Niners win. They beat the Redskins 37-20, and we will be back next week on New Year's 2023. Rod and myself. So for Rod, I am Double G. We will see you when we see you. Peace out.